interesting question.
20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stay that way? Boy, do we have problems up here. Welcome to Legends of Gotham, where we're talking about this fantastic bat flick, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I'm Bill Meeks.
And I'm Anne-Marie DeSimone.
How you doing tonight, Anne-Marie?
I am wonderific.
I am wonderific as well. You know why?
Why?
I've seen Batman v Superman like 3 times in the past week.
You really have.
I have. It's great.
There's people that'll give you a run for your money on that, though.
Yeah, probably. Hey, they might even be on this podcast.
At least one of them is on this podcast.
Definitely. But you know what? That is a great opportunity to go in and bring in our guest. Anne-Marie, why don't you introduce our guest?
All right. Tonight we have 2 guests. First is Rebecca Johnson, co-host of Supergirl Radio, a YouTuber, and she's using big words for me. Ardent defender of Zack Snyder. How are we doing, Rebecca?
Ardent isn't a big word.
It is at the moment.
Okay.
It is at the moment.
I don't use too many big
I was
words.
like, fancy.
That's probably the biggest. But yeah, I'm so excited to talk about this movie with you guys, and I've seen it 5 times now.
Nice.
So I'm going for a record.
I like it.
Nice. Which, by the way, I will say that our guests are both dressed like a Superman and a Batman, and so are we. I'm the Superman.
I'm Wonder Bat, actually.
Yeah, you're Wonder Bat.
Nice.
I am Wonder Bat. So yay!
Excellent. Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce our other
And
guest.
our next guest is HolyBatPastor, the amateur Batman expert, former Husker of Hubcap's potential podcaster, future cultural architect for the faith community, and a recent summa cum laude graduate of Mercer University.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay!
Some
Welcome,
hard work.
welcome.
Yeah, it's so good to be here,
Yay.
especially among friends.
Yeah, it's so great to finally have you on the show because, I mean, you've left us many, many voicemails. You're all over our Twitter all the time, I think. But I think this is, I've hung out with you. Like, actually, me, you, and Rebecca went out for lunch one time.
That's right. That was the first time we all met up, yeah.
Yeah, but I think Anne-Marie has never spoken to you until
That's right,
just tonight.
yeah.
I've listened to him speak to me
Yes.
via voicemail, and I have spoken to him many, many times via podcast, but this is the first conversation. So,
Okay.
yay.
Yes, first conversation, yes.
Okay, well, we have
Very exciting.
We have a lot to talk about. You guys have to get to yet another showing of Batman v Superman here shortly. So we don't want to make you guys too late for it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Anne-Marie, why don't you kick it off with the rhyming, riddling episode summary? Or movie summary. 'cause
Movie
it's a movie.
summary. Why does Batsy hate Supes so much? He thinks he's a god who's losing his touch. Is Lex Luthor a madman savant? He tricks our heroes with family-based taunts. Who will win on fight night? It could go either way. Can they set beef aside to go save the day?
The day.
The day? That's not spelled right. Will the other heroes adapt Lex Luthor's brand? Justice will dawn in Batman v Superman.
Batman v
Superman!
Okay, I'll throw it to the guest first.
Yes.
Let's start with HolyBatPastor. HolyBatPastor, overall,
Yes.
general impression, what'd you think?
Oh, general impressions. I don't do impressions well, but yes, I will say that the movie, I have to admit, I'll just fast forward. The Dark Knight Rises has, for the past, 4 years, been my go-to number one. I love all the Batman iterations. The Dark Knight Rises is the one that lured me back in to a crazy level of Batman fandom. However, I will say, we give this long enough, this one could top The Dark Knight Rises for me, even though it is not strictly a Batman film, and that is saying something.
Definitely, because you're not exaggerating when you say a crazy level of Batman. Okay,
That's a little off.
Rebecca, what did you think of it overall?
I would sort of echo some of his sentiments. This Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, I think, is now my favorite superhero movie. Ooh. I would think I would go that far as to say I think it's very close to being a very perfect movie for me, and I think it hits all the right notes for me. It has great cinematography. It has a great score. The acting is phenomenal. And it actually gave me what I've always wanted, which was a live action death of Superman. So I am very, and I know that sounds terrible. It's
like I've always wanted him just to die.
But I specifically, and we'll get into this, but I had always wanted that epic, iconic shot of dead Superman in Lois Lane's arms, and I got that. So thank you, Zack Snyder.
Excellent. Okay, Anne-Marie, what did you think of it overall?
I liked it. I'm not as over the moon as y'all are.
Well,
But
to be clear right off the top, we're big superhero comic book fans. Amory's a Gotham fan.
Yeah.
Has kind of dabbled in the rest of the
I have
comic book
dabbled
stuff.
in Batman. I have not dabbled anywhere else. I am Gotham and dabbling in Batman and fully supporting pushing Wonder Woman on my daughter. So, I liked it. I enjoy it. It was definitely better the second time when there were not 2 margaritas and a microbrew involved. But yeah, it was a when you're out without children, it happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't hate it. I have positives. I have negatives, but I have positives.
Excellent. Well, I
We
guess
know you like it.
Yeah. We don't need to even talk
We don't
about
need
me
to talk about
because
you.
I'm completely over the moon, as you said. I do apologize for anyone who was following me on social media or in real life the day the movie came out and I knew I was going to go see it. Every sentence I said literally ended with Batman v Superman.
That's cool. I like that. Yes. More power to you.
Excellent. Okay, well, yeah, we do have some general kind of guideposts to guide the discussion. I'm sure we'll be getting off into a bunch of crazy topics too.
It's what we do.
But first, we're going to start with characters, and in particular, since his name comes first in the title, he's not my favorite. My favorite's Superman, but his name comes first in the title. So Batman. Let's talk about Batman first. Okay, let's start off with, since you're such a crazy, huge Bat fan, HolyBatPastor, what were your thoughts about Batman in this movie?
Oh, wow. You're making me go first. See, I was
Yes,
really
I
looking
am.
forward to just playing off of everything, all of the wisdom that was going to be coming out of
Oh, no, these are
your
in
mouth
order
and-
in our doc. They're going to be jumping around, though.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, yeah, wow. I can't say enough. Just not even, how do I need to put this? Having nothing to do with my love for the character. Let me just look at Ben Affleck strictly, and this
Yes, please.
iteration just off the chain. I mean, I am absolutely blown away. This is 3 times I've seen it. Last night I had the opportunity to see it in 3D for the first time. 3rd time to see it overall. And I am just absolutely astounded at what they've done with the character. I think his portrayal takes the Batman character to an entirely new level that we've not seen before. And I could go on, and I don't want to take away from anyone else's comments because I feel like I'm going to be redundant, but just the fight sequences, the emotional arc of his character, the way that he has been pushed. I think in the notes, it's one of the few notes I was able to add to. I said Batman's humanity, especially the broken facets of his psyche, have been pushed past all limits he has previously known. He clearly feels backed into a corner of fear, rage, and helplessness. And I actually like seeing my superheroes, especially Batman, be so human that they're not perfect. I mean, he is. Yes, I really like this interpretation. And I like that we see him pushing past some of his typical moral boundaries. Not because I want to see him be immoral, but I want to see him question those ethical boundaries and then pull back from where he feels like he's gone over the line. So, yes, I am totally impressed with his portrayal, and I am praying that we get at least a trilogy of standalone Batman films starring and maybe even directed by and maybe even screenplay written by or co-written by Ben Affleck.
Yeah, well,
Kudos.
word on the street from him is that, he's already penned the first one.
He's
Really?
good at all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes, he
Like,
is good at
he
all
can literally do all of it.
Yes, yes.
Not so
He's
good at
proven that.
relationships, but hey, everything else he's
Hey,
got.
who is?
Exactly.
Which is very much like Batman, because Batman's kind of like a one-man team.
Right.
Ways,
He's
too.
like, I do everything. I CrossFit alone if I have to. But girls, no thank you. Can't handle it.
But I based on what you were saying though, HolyBatPastor, I do definitely agree. I thought that Batman as a cynic was a very interesting take. He had a very interesting arc throughout the whole movie, and I thought that the inciting incident was kind of Superman's actions in Man of Steel, and whatever happened to Wayne Manor and Robin and all of that, which was kind of left kind of like a big question mark. I'm sure we'll get more of that moving forward.
I think so.
but it caused him to abandon his for the Gotham fans, his one true calling.
Yeah.
I'd really just love a comic book series to kind of flesh out this version's history a bit more, because it's obvious he's walked a very different path than the Batman I know from the comics, while at the same time feeling a lot like the Batman I know from the comics.
Yeah.
So very interesting. So what do you guys think about it? Did you guys pick up on any clues about what might have happened at Wayne Manor, or what? I mean, I'm guessing the Joker took out Robin, but did you guys pick up on any hints as to what this Batman's history might have been?
Did you?
It definitely looks like Wayne Manor might have been burned down.
Yeah, that's all I'm noticing is that it looked burned.
If I haven't read it in a long time, but in Death in the Family, remind me, is there like an explosion or something that happens around the death of Robin? I'm guessing that Joker finds out that he's, Bruce Wayne is Batman, finds Robin, burns Wayne Manor to the ground. That's my guess.
Yeah, I believe what happens in that book is that he beats Robin up with the crowbar and everything, and then when Batman gets there to like find him or whatever, he blows up the building that he did it in, like the little shack or whatever he did it in. So I kind of figure that, if the Joker got to Robin, he probably also he realized who Batman was, probably.
Well, it all goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, Rebecca, what did you think of Batman, or Batfleck, as it were?
Batfleck. You know that Ben Affleck is aware of the Batfleck name. And
really?
I'm sure.
That makes me so happy that he knows that we call him that. I know a lot has been said about Batman and his actions and how he was more brutal and violent in this, but I actually sort of came to where I liked that because it gave him somewhere to go as a character. Mm-hmm. Character development is basically like you start one way, at point B, and by point A and by point B, you should be somewhere else. Like you should have grown. And so I think it gave him, like he was saying, it gave him a nice arc in the movie that by the end of the movie, I was astounded that he's inspired by Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He sees Superman's sacrifice as a way to be better. And his whole speech at the end where, he says men are still good and, we can be better. We have to be. And I think that he's looking at Clark Kent's grave as he says that. And so I loved that he is inspired by Superman to be better. And you see that he is better by the end of it because he doesn't brand Lex Luthor like he had to some of the guys in the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. You see that he's changed, and I appreciated. I know people fussed about it, but I thought the movie did a good job of addressing the brutality of this Batman. Mm-hmm. They called him out on it. It wasn't just like, oh, this was just a thing he did. Alfred calls him out on it. Mm-hmm. The Polaroids that get sent to Clark Kent at the Daily Planet, they have, justice ? On it. Mm-hmm. And so it continually gets called out on him that he shouldn't be this way. So I really liked that, even though he was more violent in this one, he grew out of it and he was inspired to, form the Justice League and be a better hero.
And I would like to add real quick, and I'll make it fast. Batman is us. We are Batman. What we do, and we don't like to talk about it, but we respond with fear and rage and helplessness, maybe on smaller scales, sometimes on very ugly scales. But this is exactly what we do, and it causes us, we will give in to the fear, and we use it to justify every action that we take, every decision that we make. And I love the moral lessons drawn from that. And so instead of, I have heard a few, reviewers like beat him up or beat Zack Snyder up like, that's not my Batman. Yeah. That's not my Batman. And I'm like, no, it's us. This is us. And this is why I can identify with the character so well. Because it's exactly what every single one of us have done it to some degree in our lives.
Well, it's to a point too, It's he's not brutal just because it's so cool to show him, burning criminals or something. It's part of, like you guys said, his character arc. And something else that I think is interesting, and we'll get into this a little bit when I talk about Superman in this movie too. Mm-hmm. But it just it very much feels like a postmodern take on Batman, where, back in the 80s, back in the 80s, you had like the Dark Knight Returns and everything. Mm-hmm. And he was almost this level of brutality. Not in some ways, not quite all the time, as bad as Batfleck in some ways. But that was kind of like a dystopian, this is where we could be going in the future sort of story, where now we're in the future, and in a lot of ways, attitudes, everything from the media landscape to the political landscape. I don't want to get too political, but like in a post 9/11 world and everything, this in a lot of ways is where we are. In fact, when Batfleck is talking to Alfred about why he has to take down the Superman, and he says, if there's just even a little bit of a chance that this guy is against us, we have to take him down, which echoed, what Dick Cheney said back in the day about, the terrorist who took out the World Trade Center. He was like, if there's a 1% chance that they could do that again, we have to take all of them out, which, obviously his kind of thrown the political climate in the world into a bit of upheaval. And a bit. So, I don't want to get too political about it, but it kind of reminded me of that, and kind of brought that to mind for me, which I thought was interesting.
Very.
But okay, Anne-Marie, what did you think of Batfleck?
All right, so for the fluffy review, I love Batfleck. I'm sorry. From the second they announced that he was being Batman, I'm like, you know what? That kind of works for me, because he has the look. Like, he has that square jaw, and he's all like, exceptionally big and bulky at this point in time. Like, he's dark. He's like, he can do the funny and the social, but he can also do the I'm gonna sneak up behind you and you're never gonna know I'm there. Hiding in a corner. I don't know. He looks like Batman to me. So it wasn't really a hard stretch for me to have to. I don't know. There's like 7 bazillion Batman movies and cartoons and everything. Like. This worked for me. Like, I don't know. I liked him.
I remember you liking The Dark Knight too. So you're
did.
definitely
well, that's
definitely
because
dig the character.
I love the Heath Ledger. So that that already won. So that was that. But like, this is the person who got me into this movie. So like, there's always one actor in such an important role that's going to either make it or break it for you, and that I'd have liked more Batman. Because it definitely wasn't his. It was his story, but not his story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he definitely had an arc, but I agree too. I feel like it was more Superman's story than Batman's in a lot of ways.
Superman already had one.
That's a really good transition point. Why don't we start talking about Superman a little bit? Rebecca, what did you think about Superman in this movie?
Well, one of the things I love about Superman, and especially Clark Kent, and what I think they've been doing with these movies, is showing how humble he is, especially Clark Kent coming from, Kansas and, being raised by farmers and things like that. And I really loved getting to see more of that from him. He's this super powered being, but he also, there's this big theme of God versus man, and everybody puts Superman up there at this God level. But really, I think he just sees himself as a man. And I loved the little bit. It's a very small part of the scene, but when he goes to the Senate hearing, and first of all, I love that he chooses for himself to go to the Senate hearing. Nobody tells him to do it, but he thinks it's the right thing to do. And I love the little bit in that scene when he walks in there and he opens that little gate, that little door, and he walks through it. And I thought, well, that's so interesting for Superman, because he could just fly over it. He doesn't have to open that door. He could just hover over it. And I thought that was a way to show that he's not just this super man, he is a man. And I love seeing those little things, like even when that surprise scene with Jonathan Kent, that I was like, oh, surprise cameo that I didn't even know about. This is awesome. When he's walking in the Arctic, he's just wearing normal clothes. He's not wearing his Superman suit. He's walking up there. He's not using his powers. He's not flying. He's just a guy, and he's just a guy in that scene who misses his dad. And even the stuff with his relationship with Lois, he's just a guy who loves a girl. And I just love that. And even with the funeral stuff at the end, you see that the two funerals are so different. You have that small funeral at the Kent farm with the closest of people that are close to him. You see his dog lying on the floor, and it's just very simple. There's not much going on at that funeral, whereas the funeral for Superman is this big grand ceremony. And so I think for Superman in this movie, I just really loved seeing that he was a humble superhero who was just trying to do the right thing.
Very nice. Very
Yes,
well said.
Very well said.
Anne-Marie, what did you think of Superman to contrast Rebecca's eloquent, positive opinion about the Man of Steel?
I'm sorry, I don't like Superman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, it is. It is. We only judge you for it a little bit.
You both judge me significantly. No, it annoys the crap out of me that every time there is even the slightest hint that Lois has a hangnail, he has to go rescue her no matter what he's doing. Like, it just feels like she's quite strong. She is quite good at saving herself, but she's also quite good at getting herself into said situations.
That's what Lois Lane does.
Right. I get that. But she has...
We'll be talking about Lois in a bit, I think.
I know, but
I understand
she puts herself in those situations knowing he's going to come save her. I know that's not why she's doing it. I know it doesn't probably motivate her, but hey, you know, time has shown us that if you put yourself in a situation where somebody's got a gun, knife, bazooka at your face, Superman will show up and save you. Like,
well, there are actually some pretty good comic book stories that deal with that issue. And, there have been some pretty good arcs with her character where she realizes, wait a second, maybe I am making more dangerous choices than I should because I've become so dependent on you and stuff like that.
There's that, and like, they're literally in the middle of fighting Doomsday. I hear Lois yelling, and off he goes. I'm like, what
Wonder Woman had it covered.
Exactly, though. It wasn't the Wonder Woman movie coming next year. This was Batman v Superman, where they were the ones supposed, like, I don't know, that really bothered me, both times.
Like Bill said, I wonder if they'll play that up in the Justice League movie when there's the world without Superman. Does Lois change the way she operates because he's not around?
Yeah, nobody else can hear you in trouble across the world, honey. I'm sorry.
No one's listening.
No, exactly. No one's listening.
Not to mention the fact, and we'll probably be talking about this a little bit later, but in the warning that Flash gives Batman in this movie, he says, Lois is the key, and in the future, the nightmare sequence future implies that Lois has died. So maybe that comes back to bite her. Maybe Lex Luthor pushes her off a skyscraper and Superman's not there to catch her at some point,
Maybe it does happen.
Maybe.
There you go.
Over in the chat room, Tensor Guy says Lois is a vehicle for trouble. Definitely. And I think a lot of times by her own design. Because, trouble's the first step to a solution for her in a lot of ways. And Bobby says, I think Henry Cavill makes a great Clark and Superman. The differences he gives to each side of Clark are very subtle.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, I could totally buy... at least some characters in the film not seeing the connection. Like I could see. Well, I kind of thought Perry knew. I kind of got the impression that Perry White knew that Clark was Superman.
How does he not?
But I could see other people not.
I've always had the issue. How do you not? I don't understand. Even though I know Henry Cavill stood in the middle of Times Square and nobody knew. Oh, America.
Okay, HolyBatPastor, what did you think of Supes in this film?
Yeah, I'm a big Superman fan. I mean, obviously I'm over the top for Batman, but that doesn't mean that I dislike Superman. And so, in the notes, to remind myself, I remembered that as I was watching it every time, I don't buy kind of the rhetoric that, he is a god. I think that's what everyone wants to say about him. By everyone, I'm not talking about in the real world. I'm talking about in the world, this world that Zack Snyder has created. But I think that kind of the curveball that Snyder and company are trying to throw us is that, look closely. No, he's not. He is, whatever they call that on the planet of Krypton, he is very much like we are. It's just that here, the rays of the sun and, I think it has something to do with the gravity, perhaps. Bill, you're the Superman expert here, but, it's just the circumstances that have endowed him with these superpowers. So really, he's no less human or no more human than all of us are. And so I love that we see his humanity, if that's what you want to call it, his relatability in this. I've heard a few negative comments, out on, YouTubers and on the internet.
The internet is a scary, scary place.
Yes, it's
Yes.
a very,
It's very
frightening
scary.
place. I think earlier I said to Rebecca, I said, "Are we watching the same movie?" I mean, that's
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I sometimes have to wonder. But he, his relatability, he is not. I've heard him described as emo Superman. No, I don't think so. I mean, let's face it. As we've watched women evolve in our culture, also men are evolving, and men are learning that, we can be masculine, we can be very masculine, and we can be in touch with our feelings, and we can have a sensitive side, we can love, and we see a very manly man who, and I want to speak to the Lois Lane issue from his vantage point. And I'm not defending or arguing against. I'm just saying, as a man, there is something. I have this romantic thing in me, and I have to admit, when I see Superman go, like, what? I hear Lois. I have to admit, there is something that gets to me, because I think in the heart of every man, he wants to have that one special female in his life that he will do whatever it takes. He might not be able to rescue her every time, but damn it, he's going to try. He's going to put himself out there. And I have to admit, that kind of got to me, that he would be like, the world is caving in around me, and all of a sudden, hello? I hear her, and he has to run to her.
But
So
then
I
there
do
will be
kinda-
no world for them to live in.
Well,
if he lets the world crumble.
Again,
That's-
Wonder Woman had it covered. We already addressed
But they didn't know that.
The woman had it covered, yes.
Exactly,
But-
the woman had it covered.
Yes, of course. So yeah, again, we get back to the superiority of females, and I'm all for that. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. But yes, I love his relatability, and I found myself going, wow, I can connect with this Superman. I'm loving it, and I love that we saw his heart breaking, because again, now Superman is us, very similar to Batman is us. We are Superman. How can we not relate to, I am doing everything I'm doing to the best of my ability, everything I can, and it's being misunderstood. I'm having it thrown back in my face. And so, yes, I have to admit, I really like Cavill's portrayal of the character.
Yeah, I will say too, as far as the Lois issue, the thing is I've always loved their love story. And
I am aware.
It got really it got hit really hard on Lois and Clark.
I am
in particular.
aware.
But the fact that they see themselves as equals, and I think as much as you say Lois is a damsel in distress or
I
whatever,
did not
and
state that, but
you did. I'm quoting you. You said Lois is a damsel in distress. Distress. But no, as much as there's that aspect to it, the thing is, if it was Bizarro Day, not Bizarro Day.
Yeah,
but,
I was like, do you really want to
but
go there?
Opposite Day, and Superman had no powers, and Lois had powers, and Clark got stuck under a piece of concrete like that. You can bet Lois would drop anything she was doing to go get him too. It's just like it's a mutual admiration by the both of them. I will say over in the chat room, I just wanted to say hi to Derek from Gotham TV Podcast.
I like that you point at me as if I'm Derek.
The other Gotham podcast that we're going steady with. How's it going, Derek? Nice to see you there. Okay, I'm going to talk about Superman for a second. Sorry.
All right, I'm going to take a nap.
Okay, you guys can refill your drinks. No, I just have a quick thing to say, and it's very similar to what's already been said. But I feel like this version of Superman, a lot of people have been saying he's like this dark, dour kind of, like HolyBatPastor was saying, emo Superman. No, I think he's the traditional Superman, the Superman that we know, the one that's all about hope, the guy, George Reeves, Christopher Reeves, all those versions of the character. I think this is the same version of the character, but he's just been dropped into a world that has become so dark that it can't accept him for what he is.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Like, you were saying the thing about the godhood. Like, a lot of people in this world are projecting that onto him because that's what they would do if they had the power. And they can't accept the fact that there's someone out there that exists who would do what Superman's doing. And I think that's really interesting. And I think, if he seems a little dark or dour or sad, I think he's just disappointed that the world isn't accepting him for who he is and his mission and what he's trying to do and what that farmer in Kansas wanted him to do. Much like Batman, he's trying for something better, but like I said, the world just keeps disappointing him. I love that at the end of the movie, he realizes, he says to Lois, this is my world. You are my world. Right before he goes off for his big sacrifice. And I love that he realizes that, the world isn't his to control or his to shape, but it's his to simply be a part of, and he needs to do anything he can to try to save it. And that's how he's going to get people on his side. Like, making the sacrifice is how he's going to win people over and make the world a better place. It's not like Lex Luthor would do, because he thinks, power can't be innocent. It's not, lording over these people and trying to force them to see that he's good. It's living by example and being a good person. So I liked it. I liked his character in the movie.
You haven't stopped squealing in a week.
I haven't.
Me neither.
I know. I'm sure.
That's very true. Tensor Guy in the chat room says, Bill, is this the movie, The Redemption of Emo Superman? Does he come out of this as a figure of hope for all mankind? I kind of think that's where they're going with it. Yeah, because he makes the big heroic sacrifice. The world, in death, finally accepts him for what he was.
Right.
So I think when he comes back from whatever he's dealing with, in that casket or whatever, I think he's going to be changed, and I think the world around him is going to be changed too. Not because of the example of his sacrifice, and obviously Batman's going to be working on getting some other guys together too to maybe make him not quite as unique. So maybe even if there are people who hate the idea of superheroes, it's not all focused on Superman at that point. So excellent. Okay, let's see. What are we going to talk about next? Lex Luthor.
Squee!
What'd you guys think about Lex Luthor?
Squee!
I should probably call on somebody, huh?
Yeah, probably. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and keep
Amber,
going,
you
squee!
keep saying squeeze, so why don't you go?
Yeah.
I love all of the Lex Luthor and I want more. I want more. How did you become a crazy man, please? I loved it. I know some people that was so ridiculously over the top, blah, 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 blah. Shut up and enjoy it. You were all mad that everything was dark and cranky and you couldn't see anything. The man with the crazy red hair, you could see everything he was doing. He was just insane. And what do you expect from a superhero villain? They can't all be doomsday and dark and have spikes and things. No, some villains are literal humans. And they're the scariest of all.
I will say over in the chat room, Kent is saying that he wasn't a fan of Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. Too much insane, too little ruthless genius.
What?
He graded on me every scene he was in. I disagree.
I completely disagree.
I thought he had the genius thing laid down pretty pat. And another common complaint, which Bobby raises in the chat room, is that Luthor felt more like Riddler or Joker. But I didn't see that. I didn't, because the Joker's a bit more demented. The Riddler's a bit more calm and
collected.
Collected. And
He has a plan. Lex didn't seem to totally have. He had a plan.
Yeah.
But then
maybe they get confused because the Riddler from Batman Forever had red hair and eyes.
I think that's what it is.
I've
That's the
heard that
only
too,
thing I
yes.
can think of, because they're not even the same characters.
Right. Yeah. Nothing alike.
And another thing that I enjoyed about it was that he has so much going on in his head, and he's all of that, especially when the big party and introducing Clark and Bruce, and the man can't even finish the sentence.
Yeah.
He's like, please just drink. Just drink. That's all I got. Just drink.
That was one of my points, was that during that speech he has, he starts off trying to give this big speech about this big metaphor with Prometheus and the lightning and everything. And he realized that no one is on his mental level at all. So he starts getting distracted and he starts stumbling and forgetting what he's talking about, because he's there. He wants to talk up here and he realizes the rest of the world is down here. So he just gives up and doesn't bother. Which
is pretty much what most people with extremely high intelligences run into, is they're talk. Nope, nobody. Okay, we'll just go down here. Talk. Okay, there you go. So, I don't know. I thoroughly enjoy every aspect of that.
Rebecca, what did you think of Lexi Poo?
Well, I mean, I loved everything that y'all are talking about. I love that he has this slow descent into madness, and everything he does, the evil gets bigger every time. He starts off, fumbling his speech at the party. Then he forces that guy to eat the cherry Jolly Rancher, which always gets a laugh at the theater.
Oh, God.
And it's just creepy.
Yeah.
And he gets all that intelligence from the Kryptonian scout ship. He's manipulating stuff with the Senate bombing. I mean, come on. He even sacrificed Mercy. He was like, I don't care. He has no feelings for anybody.
Nope.
And then, of course, at the end, he creates Doomsday when the fight between Superman and Batman doesn't go his way. So I love that everything, it just kind of escalated into this crazy man. And I think one of the scenes that sticks out to me in this movie is the scene between Superman and Lex Luthor, because that is, to me, iconic Superman and Lex Luthor.
Oh, yeah.
When Superman shoots up, I love that shot when he shoots up out of, from the ground and kind of hovers over Lex. That to me is like an iconic shot, because that shows that Superman is the powerful over Lex in that shot. And over time, Superman kind of hovers down to where Lex is. And then eventually at the end of that scene, Superman is kneeling to Lex. Lex gets him to bow before him. And so then Lex has the power. And that whole scene is just so awesome. It's one of my favorite things.
My arms were pumping the entire time. That entire scene, basically. One of the best things ever.
Yes.
Okay, Holy Batpastor, what did you think of Lex?
Yes. I would second that squee from Anne Marie. Yes, absolutely. And Bill, I have to admit, now you threw me a curve with your take on the speech at the affair. That's interesting. Yes, that would be an excellent explanation for what's going on. That he ultimately, because he even says, philanthropist, from the Greek words, lover of mankind, or whatever he says. He is way up here. He is constantly, that mind is working. But then at the end of the day, he realizes, no, these pitiful people are beneath me. And he is a grade A sociopath.
Oh, yeah.
He really is. He cannot feel anything. And like to your point about with Mercy Graves, I mean, he leaves her in the room before the explosive device goes off, feels nothing. And, it's been often said about sociopaths that sometimes you never know what's on the inside of them, but pivotal points in their childhood can prove to be the triggers
And he had
that
a
set them
terrible
off. And he
childhood,
did,
yeah.
if you were listening carefully, negative reviewers, well, I didn't give him my backstory. Listen, watch the movie. Yes, he had some key things happen to him in his life that you can tell kind of warped him into the being that he is currently. But I'm going to say this. If I say too much more, it's going to just be redundant with the already excellent points that y'all have made. So I'm going to take a different tack. Okay. When I hear people complain about his performance, this is funny to me because the sarcastic part of my personality will come to the surface, and I'll say, oh, yeah, like we all have seen the iconic representation in Gene Hackman and the guy in Lois and Clark. And what I'm saying is that all of those fine jobs, but we have not yet, and you Superman fans can correct me, I don't remember that we've had an iconic Lex Luthor yet. And I think this could be our first big over the top where someone finds it kind of hard to fill in his shoes in the same way that, when Jack Nicholson became the Joker, what did everyone say? No one will ever be able to top Jack Nicholson. Then Ledger comes along. And then what does everyone say? Oh, no one will be able to top Ledger. We've had some iconic moments. I think in retrospect, we're going to look back and people are going to say, wow, that Lex Luthor, yes, off the chain. He was something special. And that is, again, is not to criticize or take anything away from anyone who has portrayed his character. And Bill, I'm going to say something that I if you want to piggyback, please do, because you have so much more to offer on this topic than I do. I'm one of these like late to the party kind of guys. I read comics in the 70s. I was all over Batman and Superman. I tried whether it be Marvel, other DC characters, and the DC characters I could always relate to. The Marvel ones, it was always just hard for me. Like I didn't get it,
Yeah.
So, and that has stayed with me as an adult. So when I kind of got reintroduced, my Batman fandom started to take off. I wanted to dabble a little bit and kind of see where everyone was. So I was catching up on, some of Superman the Animated Series and then some of the Justice League direct-to-video releases. And I became familiar with what I call businessman, anti-Bruce Wayne, I'm running for president in every in everything that I'm featured in. This was weird to me. Okay. I mean, I did not know this Lex Luthor. And I think people have forgotten, especially maybe some younger ones.
Yeah.
That's a newer thing, you know. Like, so I had to play catch up. By the way, I was a very good sport about it and said, okay, well, this is where the character is. So let me kind of get a feel for this version of the character where it always seems to be rippling with muscles, you know. I mean, I was like, who is this guy? So I had to adapt to this. This Lex reminds me of the Lex I grew up with. This was like, wow. He's like a combination of like the madman, maybe evil scientist. He's the sociopath. I'm loving this. And so I think it is important for people to remember that this is not a denial of the character of Lex Luthor. You know, this is actually... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anything, it's more like the character has been for the majority of his existence.
Okay.
Than just about any other adaptation I've seen, especially the modern ones, because you have that businessman Lex Luthor, that is just who was basically modeled actually off of Donald Trump.
And we will let that go.
Ironic that Donald Trump is running for president.
We will let that go.
Definitely. But which is a very interesting interpretation, and they've done a lot with it over the years. But I kind of feel in a lot of ways that they've bled it dry. And I hope if this movie does nothing else for the comics, I hope it brings back this version of the character, because this version of the character reminds me very much of what Elliot S. Maggin did back in the 70s with the character, not just in the comics, but in his, more particularly in his prose novel, The Last Son of Krypton, which was released as sort of like a promotional thing for Superman the movie, where he just told in DC Universe long-form Superman tale that was really about the relationship between Superman and Lex Luthor. Highly recommend you check it out. But I think all you need to say, and I remember there being some stuff about this in that book, and when I saw it in the movie, I was like, wow, they really needed to give Elliot S. Maggin credit in this movie, and they didn't. But all you need to know about this Lex Luthor is his clothing. Is his costume.
Oh my god!
Particularly what I'm thinking of, the one shot from behind as he walks under the Kryptonian ship just says it all. His pants are baggy. His suit is ill-fitting. It just kind of hangs off him and bounces around. He feels he has to put on the trappings of a modern businessman,
but he doesn't know how
to accomplish his goals. But he doesn't care that much about them. He's doing what he has to do, but he doesn't understand why he's doing it or why it is done. He doesn't understand why people wear suits. He just understands that he has to wear one to fit in.
Well, and that's also, again, with that higher level of thinking. They get this type of stuff, but not that normal, quote unquote, normal stuff and like how society functions regularly. He's like, I am like 6 million light years ahead of you on things, and I'm just going to go create a being, which is still pretty beyond me, that he just like walked in and did all that. But yeah, he can't think that way.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Over in the chat room, let's see
they
here.
They disagree with us.
Well, they're talking about, they like a Rosenbaum from Smallville. Let's see here. Scott James Wells in Superboy, the Superboy TV series, that was a good Luthor too. And Jimbo says, yes, just like Batman and Superman have muscles, Lex was flexing his intellectual muscle.
True that.
Nice. Yeah.
Well played. Well played.
Well played, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take a nap. Rebecca, why don't you talk about Lois Lane?
Good grief. I'm just now getting, like, that's like 2 pages.
I have so many pages of notes about how, like, I could write a love letter to Lois Lane in this movie. But
you want to go grab something to eat?
Yeah.
I was about to say, you got 25 minutes.
Just give me the mic. Y'all can come back in like an hour. I might be finished in an hour. But I think what amused me and delighted me about this movie is that the Flash time travels, breaks the time-space continuum, or uses a mother box. We're not really sure. But he breaks through into the Batcave, and he shouts about how important Lois Lane is. And that made me so happy. Because Lois Lane, I mean, Batman is one of my loves. But Lois Lane is my favorite comic book character, bar none, hands down. And Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio made her the most important person in the DCEU. And I am so ecstatic about it. And I think, that you could debate kind of why she's going to be important. I kind of think that she is what if Superman does go bad, like say if he resurrects and Darkseid takes control of his mind or something, she's going to be the key to bringing him back. She's going to be the key to making him good again. Because you see throughout Batman v Superman that she's the one that outside of the hotel balcony, she's the one kind of reminding him that, people see you as a beacon of hope. People see you as this dream, but, you can be better. The world can be better. She's always reminding him of the symbol that he can be. And she also, in addition to, loving the superhero, she loves the man. And I could go on and on about that. But as far as her characterization, I loved that she was shown as a journalist. I love the scene in Africa because she's out there approaching terrorists.
Oh, hold on. Let me pour one out for Jimmy Olsen.
R.I.P. Jimmy, R.I.P. Which is really interesting because the whole Flash thing and Lois Lane dying, a lot of people are talking about Injustice Gods Among Us. And in that comic book, Jimmy Olsen also dies. So I think it's kind of interesting.
I will say just real quick before we leave Jimmy Olsen, I love that he was a spy just like his dad. But that's all I'll say about it. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, and I also love that he sort of sticks up for Lois a little bit and that she tries to, stop him from being killed. So I kind of like that they, even that shot of their knees hitting the ground at the same time. Love it. But I was really pleased as a Lois fan to see that she in this movie, because Lois Lane, if you take her down to her essential elements, is that she is about the truth. And you see that all throughout the movie, her investigation into LexCorp, her meetings with Swanwick and all that kind of stuff. She is, Swanwick thinks that she's trying to reclaim Superman's halo and maybe even her own. But I like that she's going after the truth. And I will say, in Lois Lane's defense, because all those people who are talking about her being a damsel in distress, she is the one who took down the villain that Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman couldn't take down. I believe she is the reason that Lex Luthor is in prison by the end of that movie, because she's the one who has all the information on him, all the dirt on him, and she tells him that to his face. She tells that to Lex's face. And that's another thing I also loved, is that we got to see classic Lex versus Lois, which I love. And I will say one more thing, I promise, really quickly, that the death of Superman is one of my favorite comic book stories of all time. It's the story that kind of really hardcore got me into comics about 11 years ago. And there's a moment in that story that is one of my favorite panels of all time. It's basically after Superman dies and Lois is grieving, and Cat Grant kind of grabs her by the shoulders and is shaking her, and she's like, "We're reporters. We should be reporting this." And it sort of snaps her out of her grief a little bit, and she kind of goes back to being that reporter who's telling the story of the death of Superman. And you can't, you have to look for it, but the newspaper that Perry picks up out of the line of newspapers coming out, the story about Superman's death is written by Lois Lane. And I thought that was such a nice homage to that little panel that I love so much that nobody ever talks about, but I'm in love with it because it shows that Lois picks herself back up. She has this horrible thing that happens to her. In the comic, which I especially loved about this movie, is that in the comic, Lois and Clark are engaged. And that's the tragedy of the death of Superman, is that they're so close to happiness and he dies. And so I love that Lois picks herself back up after something bad happens. And we see that in the movie. We see that she gets engaged and she wears the ring. And I love that so much. So I just could keep going on and on about Lois Lane, but I'd love Amy Adams in this role.
Okay, I'm back from getting my drink.
Just for the record, that was the first point on
Yes, I didn't even get to everything.
But you know what? I think I think you said it eloquently, beautifully. I think you said everything that I haven't heard about it. Anne-Marie has some thoughts.
No, I see. Okay. I do agree that with really a lot of that, to be honest, like always the reportery stuff. And yes, she is very strong, but she has Superman typically to come and save her. Like there's good and bad. That's part of a good character. I don't even know what I was going to say now. See, you threw
Well, that's
me
what-
off. I
well,
figured
see-
you just weren't going to let me say anything.
Well, you know what?
No, no, your opinion is valid.
Not you, him.
I was giving you a chance because Rebecca was touching on some Death of Superman stuff. And I figured it would be a good time to go ahead and touch on that just because that was, one, completely surprised me because I didn't think, even though I knew Doomsday was in the film, I didn't think they were actually going to go there. Two, there were a couple things in it that I just loved that I thought corrected some, well, I mean, not really corrected because they worked really well in the original story, but kind of, they were joyful to me to see them in the movie because I knew of the original story. First of all, I'm really glad that Ma Kent finally got to bury her son because in the original story, they have to sit there, the Kents have to sit there on their couch in Smallville and watch on television as their son gets buried in Metropolis, which I always felt so bad for them. So that was something that was really cool. And I don't know, I just thought, I thought it was really well done. Rebecca, what did you think about how they did the Death of Superman?
Oh, I mean, all the iconic imagery was there. I mean, the one of the shots I love about this movie, and like the whole movie is just shot so well. But the shot that sticks out in my mind with the Death of Superman is that iconic image of the dead Superman in Lois's arms in her lap, and Batman and Wonder Woman on either side of them. And to me personally, I take a lot of Christian imagery away from that. You know, you see it's sort of reenacting the Pietà, and you have the Trinity there. And then if you look to the left of the screen, there are two crosses there. And so you have the two crosses plus the Jesus figure. And so you sort of have the crucifixion. Wow. But the imagery is really great there. You sort of have that comic imagery of, dead Superman with Lois. And then the casket with the silver S on it. I was like, yes, A+. So all of that was really great. And I think another, this isn't going back to the comics, but there's this shot of Lois looking up at the planets when she's in, Clark Kent's, hometown room. And I really love that shot because I wonder if she's thinking about, where he comes from and all this kind of stuff. But I thought they did a really good job of putting the Kent farm funeral next to the big, I guess it's DC that has this funeral, I'm assuming, with the processions and everything. That's very much the comic book thing, except the Justice League is not part of that procession. Yeah. But there were members of the Justice League at his funeral, at his ceremony. So I really, really thought they captured the death of Superman. And it had a lot of weight to it, which I was glad to see.
Oh, go ahead, Amber.
I was going to say, in the chat room, Bobby said it feels like the Death of Superman stuff was sort of crammed in. And I kind of agree with him. Like, it felt like that not like the funeral parts, not that, like, the actual death and dying part. Yeah. For being such a huge thing, it was like, done.
Well, it was like...
It felt a little, like, for being, I don't know, it did feel a little bit quick.
Especially compared to the original story, I would say, I wouldn't say the death of Superman in the kind of like aftermath, the funeral and everything really felt crammed in, but the fight with Doomsday definitely it was a lot more truncated than it was in the comics because a lot of the reason people were a little upset when they saw Doomsday was going to be in this is like, you can't do a Doomsday fight without doing it justice, and that's going to take like the whole movie's going to have to be Doomsday based on the proportions it was in the original comic book. Because the original comic book, I think it was, 8 issues, 10 issues, something like that, of just him fighting Doomsday over the course of a day across the country. And so a lot more intensive in a lot of ways. I mean, he had kind of like the DNC list Justice League helping him out, but for the most part, the fight was all on his own. So I mean, I could definitely see that complaint. At the same time, the actual moment of death and the stuff that went on between him and Lois beforehand, to me, it didn't feel crammed in. It felt equivalent to what it was in the comics.
Okay, but I don't have that frame of reference.
Yeah, exactly.
So I probably could have used another 2 minutes at least. It just...
Did it take you by surprise when it happened?
Yes. I didn't figure we were going there. But I did know, I mean, I have enough knowledge from being around you and these two lovely people to know that Doomsday is not so good for the Superman. I know bad things happen, but I still didn't think they'd actually go there.
Pull the trigger.
Mostly because we have a Justice League movie in a year.
HolyBatPastor, what did you think about the death of Superman in this?
Yeah, it's hard to follow everything that you all have said because this is an area I am just not familiar with, and so
Preach on.
what I can so I can give a perspective, like just an average guy. What was my take? I didn't see it coming. I'm so glad. I don't know if anyone even had a hint that this was going to happen, but I had not even heard the suggestion that it could happen. I really enjoyed it, and it worked for me. I liked that it came so close to the end when you have this feeling like we're about over this thing. We're about ready to pack it up and go home. Excuse me? It's just that, what?
Check, please.
Oh, he wasn't supposed to. Is he dead? I had that reaction. Like, no, seriously, because this feels like it's about over. We're not killing him. So it really threw me for a loop. And I was very glad that I wasn't familiar with the comics history. And now, like Rebecca and Bill, this is a compliment to both of you. You both have always struck me as people who have this vast knowledge about, specific areas of comic book mythology, but you've never let it taint your expectations for when you're watching something. Like you're always very open and flexible, like, hey, that we could see a little different spin or they may pull from it. And this was frankly where I was so glad I didn't have a familiarity, because sometimes I hear people who are very, very familiar, they become so rigid in their thinking, if it deviates one bit, we can't have that. And that seems so unfortunate, because for me, not having the familiarity, it really worked. It was like, wow. Whoa. And the funeral scenes I thought were very poignant. And just the way, and that maybe we're getting off topic here because we're talking about the death itself, but just the fact that they used that as kind of the means to close the film. And I thought it ended, and for the record, like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm not into Star Wars like I am Batman, but I love Star Wars. and I know that, not everyone does, but like at the end of The Force Awakens, I remember the close and I was like, what just happened? It kind of like, it felt kind of funny to me. Where this, I'm watching it and I went, bam, that's how you end a movie. Oh my God. I just thought it was very well done. The scene, the visuals that were right there, the simplicity and how it ended. So I did appreciate what they did with the death of Superman, looking very forward to what happens, because I think that gives them somewhere exciting to go in the future installments.
Yeah, that last shot where you see the dirt on the coffin and then it kind of rises up a little. That was like, I was like, Snyder just pulled an Inception right there. That's now one of my new favorite last shots.
I love how short it is too, because it's like half a second. Like it's just like it's something moving. Oh wait, and then it's done. Like,
if you blink, you miss it.
Yeah, just to go back to what you were saying real quick, like I think in Rebecca, you may or may not agree, but I think the thing is I look at a lot of this stuff as its own thing. Like I mean its own thing based on the same source material. It's like, you can go see David Tennant play Hamlet and Patrick Stewart play Hamlet.
I will see anyone play Hamlet.
And you can see Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yes,
and you
please.
can appreciate all of them in different ways because you love the source material or, you love the story underneath of it. And I think that's kind of how I approach a lot of these comic book adaptations. I'm like, okay, they're taking all these elements or even this storyline that I know and love, and they're doing a certain thing with it. So I need to understand what that thing is and then analyze it based on what they're trying to do with it, Yeah,
and I think there are some Doomsday stories where he doesn't kill Superman. Like he's been a villain numerous times. He's come back, but his most famous story is that he kills Superman. So I was like, well, Doomsday, he doesn't have to kill Superman. So that's kind of why it shocked me in the movie, is that I was like, well, I mean, they could just, I don't know what they could do to him without killing him, but I was like, well, Superman doesn't have to die in this movie. So I think that's kind of how I saw it.
I will say though that I do prefer the comic book origin for Doomsday over the one they went with in the movie where he's like Zod's body mixed with Lex's blood and all that.
Yeah.
The comic book one is really interesting. Go look it up on Wikipedia. I'm not going to say.
You're not going there?
No, because it's almost time for them to leave.
We only have 10 more minutes.
And we haven't talked about Wonder Woman in the movie.
We need to talk about
which everyone is talking about Wonder Woman. I hate it, so I'm going to abstain.
For now.
It's okay.
But you guys talk about Wonder Woman. Actually, Emery, why don't you start with your reactions to Wonder Woman?
Okay, so I'm just excited that we have a Wonder Woman. This makes me happy. Also, the fact that she handled the fight. We have one standing over here waiting to shoot his special kryptonite gas. The other one rescuing his girlfriend. Well, while getting the stabby thing. So like, you know, it's two things, but she's like got this lasso and just like, guys, I mean, I don't mind killing him, but this is sort of your thing. Like, she just sort of was there. She was there to help. But like, I wanted to join in with the people cheering in the theater. It made me giggle a little because I know how much he hates it, which is part of why I resisted.
To be clear, I just want to say I don't hate female superheroes. I hate female anti-heroes. I think Wonder Woman is one, and that's all I'm going to say on the topic.
Okay, you don't like that she's a fighter. I am a fighter, so I can relate.
I don't mind that she's a fighter. I mean, any superhero is a fighter.
But goes out looking for it.
I don't mind that she enjoys fighting, or I mind that she enjoys fighting, and she enjoys being vicious in her fighting. That's all.
Welcome to me.
That's fair.
She smiles when she's fighting Doomsday. Like,
she smiles because she knows she can take him. Mm-hmm. She's not scared of him. Like, there is nothing about what she does that is scared of this big giant non-earthly creature. Mm-hmm. Like, she makes that very clear that she has no problem killing something that has come from another world because that's what she does. Mm-hmm. So I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that the girl handled the fight and the boys had to come finally finish it up, but she took care of that. I love the lasso.
Yeah, and I definitely know I'm in the minority in that opinion. I will say though that the music cue when she first shows up on screen was probably my favorite music cue in the movie.
The second time watching it, the music cue actually comes another time too. Before her big, and it was when they were looking at the picture.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice it the first time because I didn't know to notice it. The second time I was like, it's the music, and I got really excited about it because that may have to turn into a ringtone for me because I enjoyed it that much. But one of the other things is like we have countless amounts of versions of Batman, Superman, Lex, Lois on TV, movies, all of the comics that I don't understand, and I don't, in my little non-comic head, have that many versions of Wonder Woman. I have this version on the colored pencil thing. I have the new version that's all over Target. I have Linda Carter, but I'm not overly familiar with them. Mm-hmm. This character, I somehow have this weird relation to. Like, I enjoy her. I'm very excited for this. Mm-hmm. Even like I still hate the costume, but meh. I don't see how you're running around in a bathing suit. I'm sorry. I will never understand that.
Wait, do you hate the classic Wonder Woman costume or do you hate the Gal Gadot costume?
I hate female superheroes running around in a bikini.
Okay, no.
In any way, shape, or form.
I'm in agreement with you there. I really enjoy Gal's version, though.
I mean, it looked very nice.
Yeah.
But it's still a bathing suit with some stuff on it. A little bit of armor going on. I can't wear some pants. It's dangerous not to. I'm just excited for her movie to get all of that because there are many, many people like me who this is really going to be their first, introduction to the character. Mm-hmm. So I like it.
Excellent.
There you go.
Excellent. Rebecca, what did you think of 1D?
I thought she was awesome. I was glad to hear that in pretty much the 5 screenings that I've seen now, everybody cheers when Wonder Woman shows up. I love that the first shot you see of her as Wonder Woman is the bracelets. Mm-hmm. That's an iconic pose, and I love that. And I love that she comes in saving Batman. Mm-hmm. She gets to save Batman.
I love that too. Yeah.
I'm partially a Wonder Bat shipper, so I kind of enjoy that, but I love that, because Batman is like most people's favorite character, and for him, in some versions of Batman, like he's just, he's this ultra smart guy. You can't take him down. Nothing, he can do no wrong. But Wonder Woman is the one who comes in to help him, and I think that's awesome. They allowed her to be so strong that she could save Batman. And I loved her throughout the movie. I loved all the Diana stuff. I love the Bruce and Diana stuff.
Yes.
Love it. They have a lot of great tension between the two of them, and I enjoy that. And I love that now that Superman is dead, those two are the ones who are going to have to go find everybody else. So I'm really excited to see, did they go together to find everybody else, or did they kind of part ways and Wonder Woman goes to find Aquaman, or, Batman goes to find Flash. I don't know. So I'm excited to see what they do with her.
I will say, Derek from Gotham TV podcast over in the chat room says, totally agree with AMD. You're awesome, Wonder Woman, but wear some pants. They tried that in the comics. It didn't turn out so well.
Even just some shorts. They can be booty shorts for all I care, but you're wearing a bathing suit.
HolyBatPastor, what'd you think of Wonder Woman?
Oh, I agree with everything that our lovely ladies have said this evening. I am not as familiar with the character, so it's very interesting to hear your comments, Bill, about your take on her as like an anti-hero. So that's something I'd like to look into in the future. But just in terms of, I guess here's where I am. I loved her presence in the movie. I really dug the fact that she saved Batman. I was all over that. The music, yes, absolutely. I think everyone was turned on by that little. By the way, where did I hear this? That on iTunes, I think my son was telling me this recently, that on iTunes, more people are downloading that song than any other from the soundtrack.
It's also the most. I think it's also the most popular one on YouTube. The Water Tower Music, the company that did the score. That's the one that people are clicking on.
Yeah, real success right there. They did it. Kudos to them. So, but I have to admit, I really like the fact that people are excited about her, and I think that this gives DC an edge. And not that I'm pulling for one over the other, but I do like the fact that DC may have this sleeper hit on their hands in the future with her own independent film. And I'm just excited because we live in a day and age where people are saying, yes, I want a strong female hero. So I think that bodes well for the girls and for the women who will come out certainly and support that film. So yeah, I am excited about that, I have to admit.
Excellent. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask him something and I can't remember what it was now. I should have just spoke.
Drat.
Yeah.
Well, that's just as well, because I think it's you guys have to get to another showing of Batman v Superman, right?
Right.
I can't believe how quickly that hour and 15 minutes or so went.
Are you kidding me?
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
We have barely.
Yeah.
I think we're maybe a quarter of the way through the doc, so we'll just talk without you.
Yeah, we'll just keep going on. But, we have to do an arbitrary scale for them before they leave.
Oh,
okay,
goodness.
let's see.
Yes.
Out of 5 sliced off finger pads from General Zod, how many sliced off finger pads from General Zod do you give the movie? Rebecca, we'll start with you.
I would give it 4.5.
4.5? What happened to that one half of a finger pad?
I think there was, and this is not to fault the movie because I think there was a lot that they had to cut out. I think they had to cut something like 30 minutes of the movie out. But there were some things that I think they could have explained a little more about, like how Lex knew the secret identities and things like that.
Yes.
That you can just kind of assume that he's just that smart. But there were some little bits like that maybe they could have given more information. But at the same time, like, I don't think it hurts the movie. I think you can still, make up your own things to fill in the blanks there. Not a perfect movie, but it's really close for me anyway.
Excellent. Okay, how about you, HolyBatPastor? Out of 5 sliced off finger pads there.
Yeah, only to be different. And also keeping in mind that kind of following Anne Marie's her approach, her philosophy when on Legends of Gotham, that there's always room for improvement.
Yes, facts.
All right, so trying to keep that in mind. I'm not going to say 5, but I'll just say 4.75. That if you were to press me like, okay, so what did you not like about the film? There were only a few things. The two that come to my mind, and I've really got to watch the film again to be fair, but there's one part in the nightmare sequence there's like this, it seems like to me this screen kind of goes black at one point, and I remember like all 3 times seeing it thinking, I think that transition could have been a little different. That is a small quibble, but I think this movie is edited very well. I mean, I've heard some negative reviews that have called into question, oh, it's just the editing's all over the place, and I can't follow the movie. I would love to be able to answer all of those. I wish we had time, because I still cannot fathom what movie you're watching. I'm one of these that's very slow. Sometimes I have to watch a movie 3 and 4 times, and then the pieces start coming together for me, and I go, I get it. And I'm talking about good movies too. This movie, the first time I noticed, I was like, I followed everything. So when people say they can't follow it, I'm really kind of lost as to what they were doing while the film was on. The other thing that this is not a criticism of the film, maybe as much as it is of the marketing. I was not bothered by the doomsday reveal or anything. I mean, I was invested in the movie, and I knew I would love it. But you know that old statement, you should be careful not to cast your pearls before swine. I think that that's what they did in some regard. Sometimes the negative reviewers kind of act like, you got to prove yourself, Zack Snyder, WB, DC, you got to prove yourself. This is actually a mutual transaction. And audiences have to behave worthy of the material that's being offered to them. And I think some of that stuff that they threw out that maybe I wish they had kind of kept secret, I don't know that the audience has earned that. No, I don't think all of them did. Maybe some of us, we're like, oh yeah, hey, throw anything at us. But I think some of that they should have saved. We would have been a little more surprised. We would have been like, wow, I can't believe they went there. So I think the next time around, maybe they need to keep some of that a little more close to the vest, and not show it off, and let the audience do their part, in kind of stepping up their game also. So yeah, that's my 4.75.
Excellent. Okay, well, you guys, you're a minute late getting out of here already. If you don't have anything surprising you wanted to plug, I know how to plug for you guys. You guys go see the movie.
Aren't you going to IMAX too?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to like the real IMAX, not the fake IMAX. Like
You're going to
real,
like the Science Center,
Not
like
Limax.
Yeah, like the real stuff. But the unfortunate thing about that is all of those showings are super late.
Oh yeah.
If you want the real deal, you got to go late at night. But this should be good.
This will be my first time, so I'm really looking forward to it.
And IMAX is awesome.
Yay.
Awesome. Well, you guys enjoy. I'll do your plugs and stuff for you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Bye.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm gonna hang up on you. Bye.
Bye.
I hung up on them.
You did hang up on them.
I did hang up on them. Okay,
Wow.
you can follow Rebecca at DerbyKid on Twitter, and you can catch her every week on Supergirl Radio, which you can find at supergirlradio.com. And you can follow HolyBatPastor at HolyBatPastor. Thanks, guys, so much again for coming on.
Oh, they were awesome.
And now we'll probably be able to give some more attention to the chat room as we finish up our points here, too. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is the nightmare sequence. Emery, how did you... Because I was kind of interested in this because someone at work was saying that if a non-comics fan saw this nightmare sequence, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They would be so confused they'd want to quit the movie. I thought you
didn't say I wanted to quit the movie, but I was still confused by it.
I thought you said you kind of just interpreted it as Bruce Wayne's thoughts about Batman and being like a weird dream sequence coming from his subconscious kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, that's what you said when I...
First time or second time?
The first time.
Oh, nothing I said the first time can count. Too much alcohol. No, but that makes sense. I can see that. I feel like you made more connections, and I have heard things now from you that make more connections for me. But upon rewatching it, I was just like, knowing what to look for, knowing that it was the Flash. Because he looks completely different than he does in his little surveillance video.
Yeah.
I don't know. I needed your explanation to really, because I think by the time that we got to the Amory just interpreted this as Batman's thoughts, we'd already talked at least a little bit. So my brain was skewed. So I needed for somebody to tell me it was Flash.
Yeah. Speaking of Flash, though, like I really hope that Ezra Miller keeps the beard for his part in the Justice League, just because, and just to hear him talk about his excitement about playing the character and stuff, I think a kind of like a stoner, whoa, dude, the multiverse kind of Flash.
Well, isn't that the kind of Flash that we're getting?
Well, that's what it seems like, and I think
Yeah.
that's a really good contrast. You know, he can move a million miles a minute, but he talks kind of slow, and he thinks kind of slow, and he's kind of in awe of it all. You know, and I think that's a really cool way to take the character for sure.
Okay. I don't know much about
Yeah.
the Flash. Again, I don't watch any of the other shows. I watch Gotham. So, but what did you, I mean, you just like that he is like this whole different type of.
Yeah, completely
this
different from the Barry Allen character.
Yeah.
For sure. Bobby in the chat room says, why was Batman's dream prophetic? I don't think it was prophetic. I think what happens, exactly what Tensor Guy is saying. It's not prophetic. It's a time travel message. It's the Flash using the Speed Force to run back in time and try and warn Bruce about something. And he's pulling all this, like, potentially an alternate future with him. And that's what gets in Bruce's head. Like, I actually think that we're going to see a big twist when we fight, because eventually, and Zack Snyder has said, we're going to get the other end of that. We're going to see the Flash running back to warn Bruce.
Oh, okay. See, that excites me then.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a big twist. I think that the guy that Flash is talking to Bruce about, you know, Lois is the key and you were right about him. I think the him is not Superman. Batman interprets it as such in the movie. But I think that I think it's going to be somewhere else. I think we're going to get thrown a twist somewhere in there. But I also think that the results, or what Flash is trying to fix, is the fact that something happened to corrupt Superman, but the person that Batman was right about is someone else entirely.
Okay.
But that's why that future kind of gets pulled along with him when he's coming back to warn Batman. That's my theory anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, so next up. Derek from Gotham TV podcast says that was the most fantastic but confusing moment in the film for general audiences. Yeah, Amory, like we said, didn't even know it was...
I needed the little bit of, you know, between us leaving the movie and sitting down to record our instant reactions, you had told me just enough to get me where I needed to be. But not everybody has a Bill Meeks to tell them where they need to be.
Yeah, very true.
Everybody needs a Bill Meeks.
Everybody needs a Bill Meeks. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. But unfortunately, I don't exist in the I only exist once in the multiverse.
To the best of our knowledge.
To the best of our knowledge. Okay, so something else I want to talk about in this movie is the fact that Clark and Bruce's secret identities are kind of laid bare in the movie by Lex Luthor. I just think, you know, if anybody in the DCU can uncover their secret identities, I'm glad it was Lex. I don't think he's going to end up revealing them to the world either, because that knowledge gives him a lot of power, really. What did you think about that? Were you surprised when they revealed that Lex knew who they were? Clarky Joe and all that?
I think we got enough of him knowing who they were before the movie. Kind of like just that introduction at his house shows enough that he knows.
Yeah.
And really it's probably why he invited Bruce Wayne to his house for the event. Like it was already opened up for that. So it really didn't surprise me, but it just had me go, so this isn't a normal thing for him to know who these people are? Because, again...
Yeah, traditionally, and I think they've gotten a little loosey-goosey with it in the past year or so. I've been kind of falling off the monthly books.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think, in general, Lex doesn't know. Like, in
fact...
That's
kind of is weird, then. Because he's, in this entire movie, he's way up on the intelligence scale compared to anybody else. Is he not always?
Well,
so highly intelligent as
no,
he was
he's
in this?
always super intelligent.
He just can't put 2 and 2 together to get 4 all the time?
There's actually one interpretation, one way they went with it, when they introduced Businessman Lex. There's a story where Lex Luthor... He wants to find out who Superman is, so, you know, he can destroy Superman or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, so he builds this huge mega super brain computer, has it running on the problem night and day for weeks, and it eventually comes to the conclusion Clark Kent is Superman.
Okay.
And he sees it there in front of him, and he just dismisses it outright because he's like, no one with that much power would make themselves this meek, mild reporter. That's impossible. My computer's busted. It can't be right. I'm going to have to solve this problem another way. He just completely dismisses it because his head, he can't wrap his mind around the fact that someone with that much power wouldn't be a king or, or a businessman or something. Wouldn't be taking advantage of it in some way in his personal life. So that's one of my favorite stories, though. Anything fun in the chat room here, Emery? I guess John from the Gotham TV podcast also doesn't exist in the multiverse.
Nice. Tensor Guys starting a support group where you're, hi, Mr. Meeks, how can I help you? Let's see. Lex went so far as to make superhero logos for each of their folders. That's true, which I thought was pretty impressive. Like, how much info is in those folders? I was kind of curious about that because the Wonder Woman one makes sense because her armor has the W's like that, or her, it's everywhere.
I've seen a bunch of people saying, he took the time to make the folders. He owns an entire company, a hip, Facebook-like company. I'm sure he just went to one of the grunt graphic designers and they whipped them up in a day or something.
Maybe.
That,
I don't know, because it is Lex Luthor and this is his pet project.
Yeah, that's very true.
This is sort of a...
who's to say Lex Luthor doesn't know his way around Adobe Illustrator?
He might.
He's pretty smart guy.
He might.
He might know some principles of design.
Yeah. So
he could probably build a web page.
I would hope he could build a web page if he can build a supervillain.
But he is really, really smart though, and his plan I thought was really smart in this movie too. What did you think of it overall, Anne-Marie?
Lex is a sick, twisted man. Sad, sick, twisted man who's way too smart for his own good. Which plan? He had 16 plans and executed all of them. Sorry about your peach tea.
That I love that moment.
I love that. I heard one podcast talking about it going, why is there so much information about a cup of, piss? They're like, why is this important in my Batman movie? I don't understand. I'm like, obviously you missed the whole thing.
I thought it was great with the senator though, just because she had this whole kind of down home country thing going on, and that's a very down home country thing to say.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure Lex, especially because she didn't cooperate with him, was just I'm just gonna pick at that and take advantage of it and make sure she knows who did it before she goes down.
Yeah, which I enjoyed her. I don't remember.
Oh, she was great.
She was very good.
Holly Hunter, I think.
Holly Hunter and her asses. His other plan, basically, I don't know. I can't think of what I liked or what I thought about that. You have more things.
Well, I really like that his plan wasn't really clear to the audience until he revealed it to Superman on the helipad. I mean, you got glimpses of it. You saw him messing around with Doomsday. You saw him getting the kryptonite. But you didn't see him, kind of manipulating Batman and Superman the entire movie into this fight. I mean, I'm convinced that he let Bruce into the mansion to get that information so he would be able to find the kryptonite and steal the kryptonite to use in the fight against Superman. This was all orchestrated. He emotionally manipulated Bruce Wayne, with the letters and you let your family die, and all this stuff, which I thought was really interesting. Found out what greasy spoon Superman's mom worked at.
Yeah, that
to
was
abduct her, and you don't really get a sense of the depth of it, the depth of the plan until the classic supervillain "I'm revealing my plan" speech, which I really like, because in a lot of movies, in particular superhero movies recently, it's always you're following the villain as he does his thing the entire time.
Yeah.
And there's no big surprises at the end as to how it happened. There can be elements that can be brought in, wild card, here's a big thing that happens, but you don't you never get that big reveal that you were strung along as well as the superheroes were the entire movie.
Right.
And Lex gets one over on the audience too, I think, which was kind of cool.
Sorry, I'm trying to follow along in the chat room.
Bobby says Lex somehow knows of Darkseid and he is tying these together or
trying to gather these heroes for a league.
I think Lex had kind of an eye on the metahuman hypothesis thing going in, but I really just got the impression that when he went on the Kryptonian ship, he learned an awful lot about Darkseid because they mentioned that, there's an index there of all the planets and everything. There's actually a deleted scene that actually shows that there might be some elements from Apocalypse on that ship as well. So, and I mean, we did get the mother box. It's the thing that...
The thing with the little S?
No, the box that the guy uses to make Cyborg when Wonder Woman's going through all the videos of the Justice Leaguers. It's the box. It's the item 41982 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm never going to remember that.
Yeah, but that's a mother box. So that plays a big role on Apocalypse. It's basically you're bonded with your mother box. They're like part of you, and you can use them to open up boom tubes and travel through space and all this kind of stuff. But let's see. We already talked about Death of Superman.
We did.
Let's see here. Okay, so and I already really talked about Must There Be a Superman 2 and whole thing. So let's see here. Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
Let's get critical here right at the end.
Okay.
What's one thing about the movie you think it could improve on?
I know it's not her movie, but I'd have liked a little bit more Wonder Woman, even if not necessarily as Wonder Woman as Diana Prince.
Well, that was one of my big complaints, too.
I thought we were going to get a lot more of her involvement.
Yeah, I thought she wasn't in the movie enough to justify how much they promoted her being in the movie and how much people reacted to her being in the movie. And I also felt she wasn't effective when she was in the movie in a lot of ways. Like, she didn't land a lot of blows against Doomsday. That's all I'm saying.
That's because we were following the boys and what they were doing. We never saw her actually lasso him, but we saw him there in the lasso.
Yeah.
So we don't know how long that took. Well, we know it took at least about 5 minutes because that's how long it took to save Lois. But no, I think I'd have liked. Actually, I think I'd have liked more of Diana versus Wonder Woman. I enjoyed the fashionista character and how she basically like flattens Bruce with every like click of her stiletto. Like she basically she outsmarted him and he wasn't not at all ready for that. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty
Kent in the chat room asked, Bill, do you have any ideas who was in the black and white photo with Wonder Woman? I haven't really looked at it that much. I was basically assuming that it was just the cast from the Wonder Woman movie and characters we'll meet there, but I didn't like really analyze it too much to say who might this be, who might that be, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, because honestly, just because I'm not a big fan of the character, I'm not looking that forward to the Wonder Woman movie. I'm looking more forward to it as a period superhero piece, set during World War I and everything that I am is a Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
And as for me, I thought, as far as criticism with Batman v Superman, I thought the two climactic battles in the movie went on probably about 20% too long.
Yeah.
The Batman v Superman one and the Doomsday one. I thought they just went on a little too long. I would have liked more content like in the first act or two, honestly. Like, because the first act, and this is something, one, I like that whole philosophical questioning of the concept of superheroes. That kind of gets me going in a lot of ways. But I really thought that the first hour or so of the movie, it really read to me like a stage play in a lot of ways. Because it was just like, the spotlight would come on these two characters. You get a little scene with them. The spotlight comes on over here on a different part of the stage.
Yep.
You get a little bit with them and back and forth and back and forth. And then after, the Capitol blows up, everything kind of merges and comes together and moves forward. It reminded me a lot like how a lot of two-act stage plays are kind of structured, which I thought was kind of interesting.
It is impossible to find this picture.
Oh, you're looking for
I'm trying to find that one, yeah. Just because I hadn't looked at it yet. This is Watch Us Google Things. Was it 1915 or 1913? I thought it was 1913. I don't want your first set photos. Niet. No.
Yeah, I'm having trouble pulling it up too.
I keep getting all sorts of comic pictures and things. So anyway.
Yeah, if anyone knows where it is online, throw it in the chat room. We'll throw it up and talk about it real quick as we're going through the end here. But now I guess it's time for us to say what we thought of it with a new arbitrary scale that I have to come up with.
Because everybody already answered the other one?
Because everybody already answered the other one. Let's see here. Out of 14 Polaroids of Martha Kent tied up in a chair. How many Polaroids of Martha Kent do you give this movie, Anne-Marie?
12 and one that didn't develop.
Why?
Because, HolyBatPastor stole it from me. There's always room for improvement. No, I did really enjoy it. I don't think it did for me what it did for the three of you. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to. I went in wanting it to, but it didn't quite do that.
Well, I think you've kind of had it pegged that you were gonna like this movie, but you're gonna you feel like you're gonna love Suicide Squad, right?
I am giddy for Suicide Squad more than I am for Batman v Superman. I've always been. Oh, I'm one of those people who likes the villains. Sorry, I'm one of those people. And well, we're getting a really good Joker.
Yeah.
We're getting a really good Joker, and apparently that's the only character everybody can always seem to do really good. So they keep taking over being the best. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, I did enjoy the movie. I don't know.
Maybe it's just because everyone around you, me, HolyBatPastor, Rebecca, loved it so much. Maybe that just maybe that's why I don't like it's the same thing as why I don't like the Wonder Woman thing as much. Everyone was so gaga over it. I'm just like,
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's also just the fact that you guys understand it more and you're looking at it from you have all these different perspectives. You've read billions of books. You've seen all of these movies and shows and all of these things. And you know what? I go, hi, I watch Gotham.
Yeah.
I'm that person. Mm-hmm. I am I'm the girlfriend going to see the movie, but I have slightly more context. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. That's what I am. And I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again probably so I can try and get up to you guys' level before the next time we talk about it.
It's a packed movie too. It's a
is.
very dense film.
And
sure.
I am mad that I had one too many margaritas the first time, honestly, because I wanted to come away with that type of reaction and I wasn't able to because I was way too relaxed. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I liked it. I just, whatever.
I understand. Okay, let's see here. Over in the chat room, let's see here. We have 8 Polaroids, 11 Polaroids, reduced for Eisenberg. Jimbo is at 12 Polaroids. Yep. And Tensor Guy hasn't weighed in, but I'm going to assume he did 6 million Polaroids.
Mm-hmm, pretty much.
You know what did remind me of the Joker in this movie?
So many things.
That face of Martha Kent. Because it had kind of... It had the strap.
Oh, yeah.
In her mouth, so it looked like that. That Chelsea smile thing from Dark Knight. So that did remind me of the Joker a little bit.
Nice.
Okay, we're gonna get to some feedback here. I would normally give out all our information, but just go to legendsofgotham.com and look
Figure it out.
Mm-hmm. We're not doing another Batman v Superman episode, so
as of now, we're not.
As of now, but
you never know.
Might happen. Okay, but let's see here. I'm gonna organize these by length. So first up, we're gonna have Nixie, who I work with. Take it away, Nixie.
Hello, faithful listeners. My name is Nixie. I usually have a co-host named Grace, but we run another amazing podcast like this one called There's No Place Like Terra. It's a Stargate first watch, rewatch podcast. I've seen Stargate a number of times. Grace is watching it for the very first time. We're watching Batman and Superman, and if you're like me, I'm just going, hey, where's more Wonder Woman? And then we got to talking that Samantha Carter is kind of like Wonder Woman, more like Captain Marvel, maybe she looks like Cyborg, something along those lines. We get on tangents like this a lot. Most likely this will be the next podcast. But if you like Stargate, haven't seen it before, watching it for the 18,000th time, find us. We're on SoundCloud and on iTunes called There's No Place Like Terra. And it's another fine podcast, much like this one. We hope to hear you, have you hear us. We hope to bring entertainment to your ear holes soon. Bye!
Thank you very much,
you.
Nixie. And yeah, check out that podcast. They're having a lot of fun over there talking Stargate. Over in the chat room, VV says, I now understand why people didn't like the movie. It's because they didn't get it. I'm so used to watching DC movies where a whole bunch of characters pop up and I know who they are and their storyline already. Like, actually, I think that's a big part of like why the critical reception wasn't so good, because up until now, especially in the live action universe, the adaptations of these characters have been so subpar that when you get
a good one,
an adaptation that is hews so closely to the comics as this one did, I think it confuses people because they're expecting Christopher Reeves, and then you get comic book Superman up there dealing with these really weighty topics that comic books have dealt with for decades. And they're just not expecting it. So I think that was part of it, definitely. Okay, next up we have Shauna Piranha, who it's actually the first voicemail she's ever sent us. She's been a long-time listener of our other podcast, Greetings from Storybrooke, but for her first voicemail to us. So take it away.
Hey, Bill and Anne-Marie. This is Shauna from San Diego. This is my first voice message. We'll see how it goes. I'm calling about Batman versus Superman, and I gotta admit, this one was pretty rough on me. I guess when Man of Steel ended, I thought maybe we would get kind of a quieter, more human movie as the sequel. You know, Superman coming into his own as a superhero and a man with a job, and kick-ass Lois Lane girlfriend. That's kind of the movie I wanted. But instead, we kind of went straight from origin to death, and I feel like there's a movie missing somewhere in there, and I'm kind of in mourning that we didn't really get much time with Superman before this kind of thing all happened.
I will say that, I kind of feel like the way they're approaching this is that his death in this movie is kind of the end of his origin. I think when he rises again, I think he's going to be 100% pure Superman. I think him deciding to make the sacrifice at the end of this movie was his last kind of big trial as he grows and everything.
Yeah.
You okay? You're making a lot of weird faces.
I'm just reading Bobby's. He said, I understand all the DC characters. I got everything. I still didn't like it. I hate when people tell me I didn't get it. So, and that doesn't not invalidate your opinion.
Fair enough. Okay, continue on, Shauna.
We all know Superman comes back, but, what about Clark? Is this the death of kind of the alter ego?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Is he giving up on his humanity altogether? It just doesn't sound like the Superman that I've loved so much over the years.
I will say that, I had that question too, because in Death of Superman, the comic book version, Clark was dead, but they never found a body because, there was so much wreckage and destruction and everything. But when Superman comes back to life, Supergirl just happens to find him under some rubble, and he's been living in a fallout shelter or something. So they found a way to play it off. But in this, they had an open casket funeral for Clark. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of walk that back. I hope they do.
But I have to admit, I accept this is something new. I feel like I can both respect that, but also really, really dislike it at the same time, because it's not necessarily what I was hoping for. But if others really enjoy this new kind of Superman, I'm glad that they have something that they enjoy. So, I have other places that I can turn for the Superman that I love. It just unfortunately isn't going to be this. On the other hand, I thought Ben Affleck did an amazing job as Batman, and, the Wonder Woman was awesome too. So there is some hope there, but it was pretty rough for Superman for me. But, good luck with the podcast, and, I'll catch you on Twitter. Bye.
Thank you very much, Shauna. Definitely appreciate it. Well, while we don't agree with your opinion, we will share it and we will comment on it and ask you to send in more.
Yes, please.
Feel free to send in a voicemail anytime. That was great. Okay, next up is John and Derek from our BFF podcast, Gotham TV podcast. Take it away, John and Derek. And they actually did a lot shorter than the one I sent them. The one I sent
I'm
them,
sure it was a novella.
I sat down to okay, I'll record a quick 2 minutes. 8 minutes later, I hit the stop button. But John and Derek, take it away.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Anne-Marie. This is Derek.
Hey.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Anne-Marie. It's John here.
Hello.
from Gotham TV Podcast.
Yay!
Sorry it's been so long since we've talked to you.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's us, or more accurately, the scheduling of Gotham in the UK and Ireland, which has kept us from talking to you in case of being spoiled. Hopefully we'll be talking to you again in the summer between season 2 and season 3 for our Gotham Roundtable again.
Yeah, hopefully we can have another roundtable with you guys and gals.
Yes.
So what we're here for today, obviously, is to send you your feedback on Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. Hope you guys aren't shortening it down to Bivistodge, because they don't like that. But we loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a really cool comic book action movie. It was full of action. Loved Ben Affleck as Batman. Loved what he brought. Loved the interaction between him and Alfred with Jeremy Irons, or should I say Jeremy's Iron. This was really cool. Some great fight scenes, some great big action points. You know, again, poor Metropolis, seeing the sort of the destructive end of the superheroes and supervillain world, and Gotham as well, as always. But Metropolis, we had this vision, you know, the builder was placing the last brick to finish off the previous restoration of Metropolis after, obviously, Zod and his crew destroyed it. And, of course, in comes Doomsday. And with that kind of name, you're not going to get a good urban outcome, I don't think.
Absolutely. My big point for Batman v Superman is how much it felt like a comic book event. It really did feel like a comic book movie, but particularly one of those big event books like Flashpoint or like Civil War, where you get to see one of the big storylines, which is the battle between Batman and Superman and how they resolve for their friendship. But you also get to see glimpses of other side stories, things like, why is Wonder Woman aged over 100? Why is Chris Pine in a photograph with her from 1914? Those interesting pieces. You know, who's Flash? Why is he telling the story of a future version of Superman who has taken over the world? You know, what's that interest there? Who's Cyborg? Why is he being created? What's that box that created him? Loads of great, interesting stories that are all going to be solved in the future. So while it did feel a little bit like the Avengers with so many characters in there, they will all be explained away. All those things that we're interested in will be explained away in the other side films coming up.
Yeah, I loved in this movie Lex Luthor. I was really kind of dubious about Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal from some of the snippets and the trailers that we'd seen. I kind of was slightly questioning the kookiness of it, but actually I thought it really, really worked here. Again, DC knows how to do villains. Loved Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor here. In particular, obviously, the hearing scene where you have the jar of Granny's peach tea, so to speak. I just loved the fact that his own assistant looked around to see where was Lex Luthor when the bomb went off. Really malevolent, really crazy, and that final bit with him in the lockup, basically in a padded cell, really, really cool. So for me, one of the big things of this film that really worked, as well as Batman and Alfred, was absolutely Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg. I loved how it also just introduced the wider DC universe with Aquaman. Cyborg in particular I loved how he was being created. The pain and the agony that was brought to that few seconds was like absolutely awesome.
And by Miles Dyson from Terminator 2. How cool was that?
Yeah, exactly. Really cool. Absolutely loved how they introduced the wider DC world here with the movie Flash, with Cyborg, with Aquaman, and of course having Wonder Woman there as well.
Gal Gadot was fantastic throughout this film. Really, really enjoyed her. So to sum up, the movie's not without its problems, but overall really fun action movie, really exciting and great to see everybody on the screen. Can't wait to go back and see it again ourselves.
Absolutely. You go in there and you enjoy it. It's not supposed to be a foreign language film. It's not a huge in-depth piece on global capitalism or what have you. This is a fun, action-packed adventure comic book movie and jam-packed full to the rafters. It just really was great fun for me, and I don't think we should really be thinking about it too much, as some critics may have been doing. But I mean, obviously there's that disconnect there between critics and audience. For me, just a great, fun, action-packed movie.
Well, those are our basic thoughts over at Gotham TV Podcast. We will also be recording our review, but really looking to hearing your thoughts, Bill and Anne-Marie, over in Legends of Gotham.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll catch up really soon with you guys as we're cracking through the last half of the season of Gotham.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of Gotham, and can't wait to speak to you again. See you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Definitely. Over the summer,
Absolutely.
you, us, couple bottles of wine, Gotham.
Ah, bottles of wine.
One thing that I thought was interesting that they spoke about was that you don't need to overthink it. All this kind of stuff. Like I think it was a movie that kind of rewards you for thinking about it and like looking into it in depth. I think a lot of critics weren't expecting it to be that kind of movie. I think they were. I think that's also why you get a lot of complaints about the first hour and a half, because the first hour and a half, like I said, is a deep examination on the philosophy of what if superheroes existed in the real world? How would the world react to them, and how would the superheroes react to that reaction? And so I think a lot of people were going in expecting Fight Night. And that was the movie that they were going in expecting. So when, for the first hour, 2 hours of the movie, you get this big kind of, must there be a Superman kind of thing going on. They don't know, people don't know how to react to it exactly. Yeah. But okay, let's see here. We'll wrap up and someone I know, they've been very vocal in the chat room tonight, not liking the movie.
Nope, and that's okay. Not everybody has to like everything. Yeah, and I also think it's okay to say you don't like somebody's opinion and without or disagree with somebody's opinion. Yes. I don't think disagreeing with somebody necessarily invalidates an opinion. You know what I mean? But maybe bring down the vitriol in the chat room a little bit. We're not a fighty podcast. We're just we
a
fight with each other,
podcast.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So take it away, Bobby.
Hey guys, it's Bobby here to share a few of my thoughts about Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. So before I watched this one, I decided to rewatch Man of Steel. Whenever there's a series of films involved, I always like to watch the previous one again, just to reacclimate myself with the world that these films are set in. And I've got to say, upon repeat viewing, I enjoyed Man of Steel more than I had previously. I still had some issues with it, but I think Henry Cavill is a great Superman. I think Amy Adams makes a great Lois Lane, so I have no issues with those whatsoever. And so that being said, I was a bit more optimistic going into my showing of Batman v Superman. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to say the movie was terrible. It wasn't utter garbage like everyone is saying. It's Zack Snyder's not a terrible hack filmmaker. I mean, that's far from the truth. Obviously the film was shot beautifully. It was cast almost perfectly. I have no issues with those things. What I do take issue with is in my opinion, the portrayal of Batman and Superman in particular. Batman is almost more akin to the Punisher, and I know there's issues that have led to that are not touched upon at all in the movie, except for like the few brief things that if you're a comic fan, of course, okay, now you can piece all of this together and see that this is where it's leading. But I felt like it went beyond challenging moviegoers and the watchers. It was almost like I said, if you didn't know anything about previous comic book stories, you wouldn't have been able to piece this together. My son is a huge comic book aficionado. I don't know if I'll say aficionado. He likes comic books just as much as I do. And he had plenty of questions to me coming out of the film. Number one being, he didn't even really realize that was the Flash in that dream sequence. I'm not going to go into semantics. Like I said, basically it was just that, I didn't really care for their portrayal of either of the characters. I didn't feel like most of the things that happened in the movie were earned. I felt like there were really great shots, really great vignettes. The movie was composed beautifully, but that, it almost felt like two great movies put together, tried to cut into one. There was just so much they were trying to do, and I understand they're trying to establish so much in one movie. But I feel like it just wasn't set up at all. I don't feel like the fight at the end was earned. I didn't feel the justification. And my biggest qualm with the movie actually is that there were so many great storylines that they used, and it feels like they tried to just cherry pick which pieces they want from each story and glob them all into this one movie. I really didn't see them just killing Superman at the end. And I know Doomsday's in the movie. I should have seen that coming, but I really didn't see that coming. And I should have been weeping at that. And I just wasn't. And my son said the same thing to me before I conveyed it to him. That being said, like I said, this is not a terrible movie. There are great shots. There's great scenes. The people are cast well. Of course, I'm not going to say all the negative criticism is unwarranted. Some of the negative criticism has merit. But if you like the movie, that's not to invalidate your opinion either. All of these opinions are valid, with the exception of saying things like this is a garbage movie and what was the other thing I said? I'm sorry. And about Zack Snyder being a hack. Those aren't true. But you know what else isn't true? If you can't see the different things in this movie, you're brain dead. That's what I'm hearing from the other side of the argument either. It cuts both ways, guys. An opinion is an opinion, and facts are facts. If enough people share, I don't know, that's not to say I'm not going to go see Justice League. Of course I'm going to go see Justice League. But what I hate most of all is the discussion that's came up around the criticism of this film. Just because someone criticizes something doesn't, and then you like it, that doesn't make either of your opinions invalid or valid. That's just how someone feels. And if you feel differently, go watch the movie again. Vote with your pocket. Don't start hurling around insults and threats. It's just stupid. Okay, I guess that's all I have to say. I know this has been a little bit long-winded. If I had to give it a score, okay. I don't even know that I want to give it a letter score, especially that I've only seen it one time. I think I'll wait upon repeat viewing. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to go pay to see it again. I'm going to go ahead, but I'll get the DVD, of course, when it comes out, or Blu-ray when it comes out. So, looking forward to you guys. I know you guys all love the film, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and maybe pointing out to me some things that I missed, so that maybe, just like Man of Steel, when I go in for my repeat viewing, maybe. But like I said, I don't know. I didn't care for the portrayal of Batman. I didn't care for the portrayal of Superman. But I love comic book movies, and I love that people love this movie.
Thank you very much, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I will say that I don't think I've heard of anybody going to see the movie for a second time who walked out of the movie liking it less after seeing it a second time. I don't think I've even heard of anybody going to see it a second time and coming out feeling the same about it. Everyone I've heard about going to see it a second time has said they've liked it better. And,
I'm one of those people.
And, as much as, you're very right there, Bobby, that it's kind of cutting both ways in this criticism and everything. And it's just, that's become the story of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think where a lot of my frustration comes into it is, there's don't like the movie, whatever. But there's a whole segment of people who are gleeful about the critical reaction and going into places where people are fans of not just of the characters, but of the movie, or trying to talk about the movie because they're excited about the movie. And I'm particularly thinking about the DC Cinematic subreddit that's out there. But, and they're just, they're basically these trolls just shutting down the conversation, downvoting anyone who has anything good to say about it, derailing any sort of productive conversation that could be had about the movie, which is why I haven't been really talking about it there or elsewhere online. I've been saving it all up
for this discussion.
So I think it's interesting, and I think it's weird that you don't see this happen with other comic book movies, really. I haven't really seen this happen with not just I mean, even Man of Steel had its detractors, but there wasn't this big like pile-on of people wanting to see the movie fail. And I think it's weird, and I think it says something about fandom in general. I'm not sure
I've never been
what
a big
yet.
fan of fandom.
Like, I need more data points. I
hate fandoms.
I don't think. I think definitely the source of the short term fan fanatic definitely on full display in discussions about Batman v Superman. Okay, we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, but I figured I know VV in particular
Has some things to say.
Yeah, wanted to say some stuff, so I'm gonna put my Skype name in the chat room, and if you guys want to Skype. And if you guys want to scroll this out so I don't accidentally display it on the green screen, I'll put the chat room back on in a minute. But that's my Skype name if anybody wants to call.
Did I get enough? Did I get enough?
Yeah, and Derek from Gotham says, forget about them, Bill. We watched Gotham. This is definitely the perfect version of the movie for Gotham fans.
Yep.
Very much agreed.
I agree.
Very much agreed. Yeah, so we'll just wait here and
Except
see.
I could use some Professor Strange. That's so good.
Maybe for the Batman movie. Like, I really hope that they make Riddler the villain for the first Batman movie.
I don't think I've ever actually seen the movie that had the Riddler in it.
Yeah, just
both me and Bob here just like, get it out.
JJJ. I know, but I think it would be cool to see a serious take on the Riddler. I mean, I really like Jim Carrey's performance in Batman Forever. I know I'm pretty much alone in
your
that.
principles. I've never seen it, so.
I think that I would definitely be interested to see a serious take on the Riddler. Okay, we're gonna give it about 30 more seconds. See if anyone calls in on that Skype line I popped in the chat room. Let's see.
Oh, that's right. You're only like 2 episodes behind us, though.
Wait until you see when Jim kills Lee. Wait until you see when Harvey.
Don't do that.
Harvey.
Wait till you see Maroni back from the dead.
Wait till you see the sandwich Harvey eats in episode 15. It's amazing. It's the best sandwich ever. Oh, let's see. Someone sent me a contact request. It might be RVV, except. Yeah, it says I'm VV. Okay.
Can't get through. It's okay.
No,
we had to accept. Hold on. Try again.
Call Skype.
Call. Oh, I think.
Oh.
Nope.
Hey, it says you're busy.
They said they couldn't get through.
Let me try again.
All right.
See? VV?
Yes, this is me. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I just want to, I've been hearing so many people hate this movie. It was like a week before the movie came out, and I wish I had a chance to go see it with all the early, but I didn't. But I was watching all these critic reviews because there was an early showing. So I was listening to all these critics explain this movie, and almost every one of them hated it. Yeah. I mean, from Collider, Jay Rohr, he's like a Superman fan, and there was some other guy. Everybody hated it, and I was so skeptical. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go see this movie because all these critics that I listened to, that basically I thought agreed with me, hated it. But then right on the day it was about to open, I couldn't take it anymore. So I went to see it, and I loved it. In fact, I think it's one of the best movies ever. It reminds me of Gotham. The reason why I like Gotham is because it's a different interpretation of the storyline. And that's why I like it. I like movies with different interpretations. Tim Burton's Batman, as opposed to the pop art Batman that we got in the 60s, 70s with the pow, boo boo. And then we had Nolan's Batman, which was a reinterpretation of that made it more realistic. I like these new interpretations, and I think that's the problem why critics don't like it, because they don't like the interpretations of it. They want their old superheroes back. I think a lot of these people don't like the movie because it's not comedic. There's no comedy in this movie, and they're so used to like superhero movies with some sort of comedic value to it. Well, when you watch Gotham, there's basically no comedy. And I like that. I like that's how I imagine a world with superheroes to be. I don't think it's going to be comedic like that. I think it's going to be on a serious level Like,
Yeah,
Watchmen.
I think you're right. You know, I don't think there's not a lot of broad comedy in Gotham or in this movie, but there are funny moments, but they're more played straight, and it's character comedy. It's not, you know, kind of a jokey kind of comedy.
Yeah, the comedy that they did put in Batman versus Superman, I thought was kind of forced. Like that one last scene. Can I spoil a little bit where Batman saves?
Oh, you can spoil whatever you want.
We're spoiling everything here.
Okay, so when Batman saves Martha, Superman's mother, he says to her, "Oh, I'm with your son," and she says, "Oh yeah, I know, the cape. I figured the cape," and I think they forced that. I don't think Zack Snyder wanted that, but I think like the big heads like, we're gonna have to add some comedy in here because it's too serious. And even that scene where Batman says to or Superman says to Batman, "Oh, who is this? I thought she was with you," and then he says, "Well, I think they put that in there. I don't think Zack Snyder really wanted that comedy."
Yeah,
you know,
I felt that line was kind of tacked on too, just because, especially after I saw the movie. Like in the trailer, I was like, okay, that's kind of fun, cute scene or whatever. But then when I saw the movie and I saw the order of the movie, Batman should have known her, like, by that point in the movie, because they had already had a couple run-ins.
They had a couple,
and he had seen the picture, and he was sending her emails back and forth, you know.
But that doesn't mean that he didn't know that she wasn't with Superman.
I guess that's true.
There was never a distinct statement that, you know, just because they both wear like red, blue, and yellow, that they're both together. Like, they're not the color coordinated couple. So,
yeah, I mean, those lines make the movie. I mean, I don't know. I liked it. I liked the whole movie. Everything about it. I mean, I can nitpick the movie and go into minute details and say this was wrong. Like Superman not knowing who Bruce Wayne was. He's a reporter. He should know Bruce Wayne. Especially Bruce Wayne is a multi-billionaire. Come on, who doesn't know multi-billionaires, especially a reporter? But that's nitpicking. I mean, I thought everything about this movie was perfect. Was it deep, like on a serious level? Not yet. And I say not yet because I think this movie is deep in terms of the movie coming up. Now, remember, this is not called Justice League. This is called Batman versus Superman. And the subtitle is Dawn of Justice. Now, part 2, this is how I figure it, is still going to be called Batman versus Superman. The fight is not over. This is leading to the Injustice storyline. That's why Flash was in there. He was warning. If you listen carefully, he says, it's Lois. It's Lois. The Injustice storyline is Lois being killed by Clark, by Superman. But if you're not into this, it's hard for you to get. And I don't know, whatever. But basically, I can go deep into it. I love this because I know the storyline like pretty well. So I follow this, right? Am I wrong for saying that?
No, I definitely got the impression that that's kind of the direction they're going, or that might be like the future they're heading towards if they don't save the day at the end of the Justice League movie or something, for sure. Like I think it's a very, I thought it was a really good movie, and I definitely feel like while Batman and Superman aren't going to be on the same page in Justice League, it's going to be more like, okay, who's the leader here? What's this team all about, sort of thing. I think they're going to have more verbal fights than physical ones, for sure.
yeah.
Well, I think that they're going to continue with this fight between Superman and Batman in part 2. I'm almost positive. If you take down all the dream sequences, you could see the Injustice storyline playing out. It's all the dream sequences is the Injustice storyline. That's my opinion. I think they're going to carry this into part 2, and that's how I hope it goes. I don't want this to be a corny Justice League War type of movie. You know, the animation. League War.
Yeah. I wasn't a huge fan of that one.
Yeah, so, okay, and that's me. All right, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for joining
us.
Yeah.
Definitely. We'll see you in Gotham, okay?
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, let's see here. We'll give Bobby a call real quick. Let's see here. Bobby, call. Bobby, we're calling you. Dun 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 dun. I think that's how the Wonder Woman
No,
music
I don't
went.
think that's how that went.
No? Okay.
No. It doesn't go.
Hello. Hold on.
Bobbert!
Hey, Bobby.
Hey guys, I'm just wanting to turn the volume down on this so I'm not interfering.
Oh, I hear us.
Oh, yeah.
Caller, turn down
There we
your
go.
radio. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Sorry,
How's it
You're
going,
good.
Bobby?
all right.
You've been staying out of the trouble in the chat room there?
Oh God, this was the first week I almost left the chat room, guys.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. It's like, that's another thing about this movie is that any conversation about it, if there are two people who are on the opposite sides, it gets pretty intense pretty quickly.
Yes,
for
it does.
sure.
Yes.
But I feel like I was trying everything I could to tell him, was like, dude, I understand your opinion. It's valid. It's fine. And he kept coming back at me, and I was just like, ah.
Well, that's the thing
Anyway.
too. Is it's just like a chat room is a poor
dangerous
place for a very in-depth discussion too. Just because, like, you can think that the other party isn't understanding your point, or you can kind of get repetitious trying to get your point across if you don't think they're getting it, and it just goes to explodey town. But what do you want to say, Bob?
Okay, well, first of all, like, I just wanted to say that this is, like, one of my favorite, I come here once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, however many podcasts you guys are recording.
Depends on the week.
But what I love is that we all can have different opinions and have a discussion about it and not get vitriolic and not, I don't know. I don't know. I almost felt like I had to get on the defense there for a moment because I don't hate this movie.
Yeah.
And I never said I hated this movie. I understand all of, I'm a Marvel fanboy. I'm not, I'll preface it with that, but that's not to say I don't love DC as well. I've got a scar on my forehead from when I busted my head open when I was 3 trying to be Superman.
I think every kid has that scar.
So I totally get Superman. I get Batman, and I've read all of these different stories. I understand the different stories they borrowed from, and so don't keep telling me that I don't get it. I don't understand. I totally understand. I know everything. I knew those were parademons. I knew, I know all of those things. I know that was the Flash that popped out of the wall, but I don't feel like it shouldn't be up to general audiences to have to either have previous knowledge or to try to learn to gather all of that from the context of the film, especially when I feel like the context wasn't there in the film. It's like, like someone said earlier in the chat room, oh, well, especially movie critics who think the Flash thing was a dream sequence. Well, in their defense, the movie didn't do anything otherwise, didn't tell the critics anything to I'm sorry, like I said, I had a few to drink.
We support that. We support that.
Well, I know. I think, particularly with the Flash thing, like, I think they kind of structured that as a dream sequence. So if you didn't know the parademons in the comics and the big Omega symbol in the desert.
This guy over here.
It just came off as, Batman Crazy Pants dream time.
Weird crap.
Yep.
And I totally understand that. And that's another thing is I feel like there were moments like that and like them just looking through the files and whatnot that felt like they were just kind of just crammed in there for like, to try to set up other films. And like, that's what like the post-credit sequences in the Marvel films have become. So
Okay.
I feel like that's what I would have done with that is thrown that into like a post-credit type thing.
Yeah, I really feel like, though, the DC really couldn't do a post-credit scene, because if they did, then everybody would be saying, even more so than they already are, that DC is trying to copy Marvel. And that's kind of Marvel's thing. They kind of came up with that, and they've done it in every movie forever now, and I don't think...
Well, to fair, Ferris Bueller came up with that.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But yeah, and I also, just back to your earlier point too, I don't want you to think that when I was saying, people might not know the characters as they are in the comics, and that might be where some of the criticism, that wasn't directed at you.
That was directed at me.
No, that was directed at some of the critical reviews I read from outlets like Rolling Stone and a few other places that were complaining about things about the character that are inherent to the character in the comics, but haven't ever really come across in an adaptation of the film, because in a lot of ways, a lot of the DC adaptations outside of the animation, realm have been really subpar and really, just 60% of the character, So I think that kind of like messed with people's expectations for what this movie was going to be a lot,
Oh no, I can see what you're saying, and to go back to what you were saying, that wasn't directed at you. That was VV who kept saying in the chat, like, "Oh, well, you don't understand this because you don't understand the characters, and this is the Injustice storyline." It's like, no, I know Injustice. I know all of this stuff. Don't tell me I don't know. I know.
Well, see, now I feel like I should have brought VV in with you on a group call, so you guys could talk and make up.
No. That probably would have no.
That's fair. Well, I think agree to disagree.
Yes.
I think
That's
you both.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think you guys both had great points, both in the chat room and on your call.
Yep.
I'm glad the fighting's over. I'm glad.
Let us end the fighting here.
I'm glad Batman killed Superman, and we're done with it
Let's
all.
all get another meal.
Okay, but we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here, Bobby. Thanks so much for calling and hanging out and everything. We love you, man.
All right, thanks, guys. Love you too. See you.
Goodbye. All right, cool. So I guess that about wraps it up. Anne-Marie, do you have any other thoughts on Batman v Superman, or do you think our 2 hour and 15-minute stream has about covered everything we need to say about it?
My cup is empty. That's all I have to say right now.
Yeah, and Jimbo's got to go too.
Jimbo's got to. All right, we all got to
Gotham
go.
forever. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, and join us next time for more Legends of Gotham.
See, you know what you should have done?
What?
Gotten the Wonder Woman theme for the end here.
I should have, huh?
Yeah, probably.
But then we probably would have got a YouTube takedown.
No, we wouldn't have.
No, we probably would have.
Well, you just use a little bit.
We got some problems up here. Do you bleed? You will.
No, he didn't, though. There was no bleeding.
He didn't bleed.
He didn't bleed.
Not even with that giant hole in his chest.
Nope, not even with the giant hole. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yes,
this
thank
was
you
insanity.
so much. We love you.
Good night.
Goodbye.